Hello and welcome to the lovely Heronbrook Fishery in deepest Staffordshire.
Right, come on then, my little Yorkshire porn star.
I have actually been described as a powerhouse of a man before.
By yourself. Well, Tom, is this the £8 that you promised me?
Dave, it might be. Now today, we're going to do some distance feeder fishing. Dave?
Strong arm stuff, Tom. Distance. Why have you brought me to Snake Lakes for distance?
First of all, health and safety. Sorry, pal. Have you got your crash helmet? Because I'm going to be casting at you today over there at one point. That's the plan anyway.
I've heard they call you the Scud missile because you're always within 500 yards of your target.
Absolutely, you've got it. I can guarantee you it'll be in the right lake today.
Well, that's good. But so explain here. We've come. I mean, Heronbrook is predominantly Snake Lakes, but you come up with quite a good plan here, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Explain.
The plan is, well, two sides. The genius of the plan, I think, is that what this allows us to do with these distance feeder fishing rods and reels and feeders we've got to test today is we can chuck all the way across the lake to a platform. So we can obviously test the rods at range, but also we've got some new feeders to look at, haven't we? And it'll be nice to see and get some close-up shots of how they enter the water. And they, of course, are the Preston Innovations Durant banjo feeders, but with some rods and reels as well, haven't we?
Well, yes. So we've matched things up, haven't we? We've got two rods from two different manufacturers of virtually exactly the same dimensions or whatever you would specifications. I think is the word, Tom.
Absolutely.
So we've got two 4-metre rods, which in old money is 13 foot.
Two. Yeah.
No, don't forget the 2. And
makes all the difference, Dave. The extra 2 inches is very useful.
I wouldn't know. Reels we've got on the, so we've got from MAP, not had MAP on the show before.
No, it's great to have them on, isn't it?
So it's lovely. We've got a the dual XD series rod, which I say is 4 metres, 13 foot 2, and we've got a dual feeder in 5,500 size. So that's matched up pretty evenly, and it's a good, that's a 4 metres, 13 foot 2. That's a long distance rod, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And then you've got
the Preston Innovations Distance Master Carbon Active rod in, again, 4 metres, developed by Lee Kerry, and the Intensity reel. Now it says he's put hours of work into this. That's what it says on the Preston website. Wow. And I know what Lee's like, he didn't do things by half, so it'll be interesting to see what he's come up with, the old boy.
Well, it is. Meticulous, I think, is best described.
Meticulous, yeah, I think that's a polite word for it. That's probably the best thing he's been called all year.
So we're gonna chuck long. We're gonna hopefully catch big.
We are.
And we have a bit of competition as well.
A little bit of competition, and today we've got a great way of measuring the competition, which brings me on to another product that we're looking at today.
Ooh, yes.
From our friends at Rite-Tackle.
Yes. Now I like this. This is gadgetry.
Gadgetry of the highest order.
Yes.
We have the Rite-Tackle Right Way, which is a landing net attachment that weighs fish for you. So we'll be able to find out who catches the biggest fish today without leaving the comfort of the op box.
Yes.
And the right count, which allows us to gauge how much we're putting in the keep net. Useful for all you, and I point to you because it rarely happens to me, but all you who regularly go over your keep nets on commercial fisheries.
Have you ever gone over on a limit?
I've got to be honest, I haven't, but I've been very lucky. I was within 10 ounces. I think it was here at Heronbrook once, within 10 ounces of going over.
Is that when the net limits were £20?
You've got it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Should we get cracking with this then?
I think we will actually. Should we start with some Preston Tackle?
Let's go on.
Let's have a go.
So then, Tom, you've come up with this elaborate plan of casting the length of a lake rather than across it, and rather kindly you've let me go first.
Well, I think you're the ideal candidate, the older, more experienced angler, Dave, who I think is going to hone in on that target beautifully. 70 turns of the reel to there.
70 turns, have you measured it up?
I have measured it up. I've even put a nice tripod on the peg for you to aim at.
Can't see it. My old age, my eyesight's going.
Well, where's it going?
Well, we're going to nail it anyway.
Come on, let's have a look. Let's have a go.
What do you reckon? Crack off first cast?
Let's have a look. Oh, sir.
It's going, it's flying, it's flying. Oh!
I'll tell you what, mate, not far off at
I'll tell
all.
you
And
what, it's a strong clip there, didn't I?
yeah, a strong clip, and also the feeder went in beautifully, which we'll come on to that in a little while, won't we? Scared a few ducks, pal.
Yeah. There we go. Let's set that up.
You've sunk the line now. So yeah, let's get straight into some questions. What did you think of the rod on the cast? Enough power for you, sir?
Do you know, I think when you say about a 13-foot rod for still water, you feel like something cumbersome, and you know, and I use obviously a lot of 13-foot rods when I'm fishing on rivers and stuff, but that felt quite comfortable actually. Didn't feel like it was, you know, too cumbersome or heavy. It's a relatively slim blank, isn't it? And yeah, I felt comfortable. There was plenty more in that. I mean, that was a tentative cast really, and it's sort of, you know, obviously I made it look better than it was.
Of course
really.
you did,
know,
Dave.
That's what I do, Tom. It's how I roll. But
a natural talent.
What's
described as.
So what tip have we got in here? I can't remember which tip do we use. A 2-ounce tip.
That's a 2-ounce tip in there. It comes supplied with 3 tips: 2 ounce, 3 ounce, and 4 ounce.
Right.
And a few key features that I'd like to draw your attention to. Fresh from the Preston website, this information.
I guess so.
Elongated butt, ergonomic shape for ease of casting, slightly flattened.
Did you just say the word ergonomic?
I did.
Please
actually.
explain that word to me, Tom. I'm not educated enough now. What does that mean?
Well, Dave, it means it's designed to fit nicely in the hand, to be nicely usable. That's what it means. Ergonomic means usable, doesn't it?
I can relate to that, and I can see me using that in other arenas.
Yes.
Ergonomics, like
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted your flow then.
Yeah. So, ergonomic handle, bit more bulbous at the end, sir. Obviously, again to help with the grip on the casting. Lovely long butt, big eyes, obviously, which will aid the line flying through on the cast at distance. Just a powerhouse of a rod, really.
So, I mean, I don't think we're anywhere, you know, with regards to rod design now. I don't think there's any great secrets in the way the eye set up, the amount of eyes on a rod, things like that. That's all pretty standard, isn't it? It's not. I noticed these have got. There is a trend now. I've noticed that sort of eyes have a sort of a forward, like an almost like tilt on some rods. This hasn't got that. These look fairly, you know, sort of traditional sort of setup. But like I say, the important that big eye is always the first one. You know, that's obviously taking a lot of as the line comes off the reel, it's spinning, and if that's too small, it just drags, doesn't it? So
absolutely. Right. Well, you know, also I think it's important to stress we've not exactly got a distance set up on here, are you? We're not fishing with, for example, if we were chucking a long way on a reservoir, we might use maybe braid or at least 4-pound mono main line with a shock leader, might we? This is 8-pound reel line on there. So, you know, we've not exactly scaled down as you would maybe if you were looking to chuck any sort of distance on a natural venue. And yeah, I mean, it looked to me like it handled that absolutely beautifully. Loads of power in reserve.
So tell me then, where are we up to with rods like this, designed for distance casting? Do we have to choose a different rod if we're fishing for different species, so long range bream fishing or long range carp fishing, or does this sort of rod do both?
I think this sort of rod does both, you know, other than real extreme work. Look, I mean, fishing at range, you've always got to have a feeder of a certain size on, haven't you, to...
Would that be, I think that's something, you know, neither of us would claim to be experts at this sort of fishing, but we've both done it. And I think that's one mistake that a lot of people make, isn't it? They don't put a heavy enough feeder on. They don't realise the difference between a 30-gram feeder and a 45-gram feeder is massive when it comes to casting.
Absolutely, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a bit, because we've got obviously the Joey Banjos on today, which flew through the air beautifully. But you're dead right. I mean, listen, we all love a laugh and a joke, and I've always been quite quick to, you know, not mock feeder fishing, but say, oh, it's a lot easier than float fishing and all that. But as you say, there's a hell of a lot to it. And even more in recent years, because anglers have been doing it more competitively with events like Feeder Masters and internationally, you know, I think feeder fishing tackle has developed further and further and more advanced than it ever has before.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of moving parts, isn't there, you know, with regards to, you know, when you're casting regularly at distance, there's lots of things going on. And ultimately, you know, although design changes, as we'll see today, that it's like designing the change of these method feeders, but ultimately, everyone's chucking very sim. Oh, I had a liner then, Tom. Everybody's chucking very similar sort of setups. So you've got to be the finer points, whether it be the rod, the reel, whatever. The finer points make a big difference, don't they?
Massively.
Give you an edge.
And that is exactly it, you know. And one case in point here, which I always sort of come back to with this kind of feeder fishing, I suppose, the results from Boddingtons in the winter. Now you look at that, you would argue on paper that should be the most random match ever, because you're fishing for very few fish, you're chucking a long way, and you know, you'd think that it'd be like fish bingo really, but it's not. Steve and Phil Ringer win more times than they don't.
Yeah.
Everybody's chucking a similar distance with similar tackle, but it's those little edges, isn't it? Those key little edges, as you just said, Dave, that really set it apart.
So what? Okay, so let's look at, because we're talking about the rod as such. So what could be wrong with a rod setup? You know, what are the things that you're looking for that you know is going to make a rod not ideal for this sort of thing? So you know, this is an extreme, but what do you say? 70 turns? What is it? 60 yards? Something like that? I don't know. I don't know what the thing is. But it feels about 60
to 70 yards.
Yeah.
Right. 70 turns of the reel. Yeah.
You know what? So, what would you be looking at? The rod being, you know, if it would be wrong for the job if it was too soft in the middle, didn't have that sort of backbone for the cast.
I'd be looking at two things. First of all, is obviously casting power. Now, there was a phase a few years or a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, where I looked at some new rods and I was thinking manufacturers were bringing out rods for casting, not for fishing, because I think it got to the point where, you know, it was in vogue, wasn't it? All these feeder fishing venues had just opened up and everyone wanted to cast 100 metres or whatever. And, you know, how can I put it? You can go and buy a beach casting rod to do that if you want to, Dave.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So casting power is vital, but the biggest thing, I think, especially on venues like this, where we might hook a £3 F1 out there and have to nurse it back.
Nurse it back. That's a nice way of saying that.
It's the softness, isn't it? It's the action of the rod and the fish playing action. And obviously we'll find out about that very soon.
I'm getting liners here, Tom. We're going to get a bite in a minute. I can feel it.
I think so.
There's one coming on. Oh, there we go.
That'll be on then, Dave, I think.
I think so, Tom. Oh, yes. Don't think it's a big fish. It's a start, isn't it?
Well, in many ways, how it handles a small fish like that at range.
Well, this goes on with what we were saying about whether you're bream fishing or carp fishing, doesn't it? You know, you've got to be able to keep it soft enough that it's not going to just rip the hooks out or pull out of them. So I think this is probably an F1 actually, Tom.
Especially with like an inline feeder or you know, something that's maybe not elasticated.
And also 45 grams of feeder. You know, that's a big old weight to sort of bounce around in front of a fish, isn't it? Once it's hooked. So
it is, yeah.
That's it. It's only an F1. So
it registered the bite quite nicely, didn't it? It was sort of a...
No, there's no problem with that. That's all good. So just talk to me pricing points on these rods, Tom.
So they're quite expensive bits of kit, to be honest, Dave. You're looking about 220 quid for the 12-foot model, going up to about 270 for the 13.2. So
right,
it's
so quite
they're not cheap rods.
No. Okay. Well, I mean, first thing I'd say is it doesn't feel like a rod that doesn't sort of warrant a good price tag.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the question I'd ask is, what would you improve on it? You know, because for that sort of money, you're looking for a premium product.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to find anything. You know, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, isn't it? This is the key thing I find with like F1s is when you get them to this point, isn't it? Getting them under the rod tip. Sometimes you just got to keep that rod as low as you can and not put. You almost like trying not to put any pressure on them.
Yeah, but watching the sort of tip and mid action of that rod now, look at that. You know, it's sort of absorbing them lunges really nicely, isn't it?
It's not a big fish, this, but I just interested to see the action of it and how it handles them. But it's and the other thing is, you know, a rod like this, you know, all right, it's got a price tag, but you know, this is a 13-foot rod. This can be used in a few circumstances. It could be a perfectly good barbel rod. You know, if you're into your river fishing, you know, you could be buying a rod that could do many different things. I'm playing this very tentatively, Tom. I just don't want it to come on because it's our first fish. So
take your time and make sure it ends up in the onion stomach.
Well, I just feel like you're getting a feel for the rod. I mean, that's bending, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's cast beautifully. It's playing that fish there. It'd be interesting to see, but I'm guessing what, £2 F1 maybe? You know, but looking at the action of the rod, it's handling it absolutely beautifully. It's soft enough to absorb its lunges, stop the hook pulling out. Looks absolutely lovely. In fact, I'm itching to have a go myself.
I don't know I'm going to let you, Tom.
Stop it, Dave.
I don't feel like I've got a good feel enough for it yet. I need to have another cast. Oh, I'll let you,
dogged little fighter, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just because F1, I know what they're like. You start pulling too hard and they just come off. And at the end of the day, the people at home want to see fish landed, Tom.
It's true.
They don't want to see my method feeder swinging through the air and utter desperation on my face.
And expletives coming out your mouth.
I don't swear, Tom. I'm a good, clean living sort of a chap. I think it is actually taking the mick now. I need to.
No.
Tell you what, they do fight in here, don't they?
Is it an F1 or is it a small carp?
I don't know. It's F1, I think, but it's just about ready now, Tom.
Tell you what, lively animal. It's in the side of the chops, look.
Is that what it is? Outside the mouth? No, it's not. It's perfectly.
I said just in the side of the chops.
Oh, right, okay.
You're in death you are, mate, honestly. It's that old age, isn't it? Awful.
You are. So there we go. So those are the fish that I find fishing at distance, you know, because if you're fishing venues like this, or even your big open carp waters, especially with F1s, these are the fish that are going to, you know, you're going to build a weight with these. They're going to be part of your weight as well as hopefully some bigger carp. And you don't want to be pulling out of them. You don't want to be pulling out of them and, you know, and getting in a mess. So, you know, that's a good start. Not a
Lovely
massive fish, but the rod
Passed
certainly...
with flying colours.
Yeah.
Just before you put it in the net, I want you to do something for me.
Oh, go on then, Tom.
Right. One of the other products we've got to test today is the Right Way from Rite-Tackle. You've got it attached to the landing net. How big do you think that fish is, Dave, if you were guessing?
I'm going to say 1.5 pounds.
Right, let's see what the Right Way says it is. Bear in mind it's calibrated
Right.
for the landing net, roughly. So,
Right.
yeah, well, it's about 1.75 pounds according to that, isn't it?
Yeah. So would you say with it, so is the, hang on, is the weight of the net included? Right,
yeah,
okay.
It's calibrated to take the weight of an average 6-ounce landing net. So.
Right, okay, so it's not
Well,
far
it's
off.
not far off, is it? Pound and a half?
So, you know, this is part of the deal, isn't it? This is what you're trying to do, is gauge your weight. You know, if a lot of people use a clicker, you know, you don't want to go over on your nets because that can cost you a match win.
Yeah.
So you know, I can now put on my clicker 1.5 pounds.
And there's the...
and on my clicker, I can put 1 pound, 8 ounces.
Oh, what a
Look
guy.
at that. Oh, no, I'd get confused. I think that's 18 pounds.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'd probably just put £2, wouldn't you?
But I see what it's doing. It's giving you, you know, it's certainly giving you a, if you used it in conjunction with a clicker. And I think that's interesting as well, that it doesn't, I didn't notice that was on there then actually when I was playing that fish. I didn't, so it's not affecting, you know, it's not affecting the sort of manoeuvrability. Sorry, did I hit you then?
You did.
It was completely deliberate. You know, it's not cumbersome, is it? It doesn't change
No.
the action of the
It
net.
actually gives you a bit of added length, which, let's face it, Dave, we can all do with at times.
Yeah, speak for yourself, Thomas. Speak for yourself.
Right, it's my go to have a cast, I think,
Okay,
isn't
you
it?
can have a cast. You'll crack
I'll now
off now.
demonstrate to you the art of long distance casting.
Oh, I'll look forward to this. So I've left a wafter on there for you.
Let's see what we can do. And that was slightly to the right of that platform, wasn't it, out there? Which looked, I must say, your casting was beautiful. It went in absolutely lovely.
I thought, you know.
So let's see what we think of this rod. I use the Guru Aventus rods for this sort of work, but I've never used one of these rods before, so I could be persuaded to...
Just left you a loop on there.
Oh,
Tom.
you've
Just
left
be
me a loop
careful,
on the
yeah.
reel. What a
I
guy.
don't want you tangling up before we start because you'll blame me.
Would
It
I?
might be around the top.
Oh, Dave, you've dealt me what I would call... I think the phrase for this is a shithouse trick. There we are, we're off. But you've wrapped me around the rod as well, Pop.
That's all right. It was just because we were messing around with the right landing. What's it called? Way right. Way right.
Right way.
Right way. Right way. I'll get that right in a minute.
Let's have a little look. Got it. Tell you what, Dabs, that's done me here. That's done
There you
me.
go, look. Right, come on.
Right, I'm going to wind it up. Are you ready?
Yeah. Now,
Right.
I'll give you a little bit of advice here. Look where you're aiming and aim where you're looking.
Okay, my old beauty. Let's see what we can do.
That's profound, isn't it?
Profound advice. Slightly to the right of the platform.
Oh, he's nailed it. He's nailed it. Ooh, that was pretty straight, that was, Tom. You didn't explode the clip there, did you? But, you know.
No, I didn't do that.
It was your first chuck, I'll give you that. It was very straight and very true. I think you'll get a bite there, you know.
You reckon? I wasn't that happy with how it went in. In fact, you know what? I'm going to have another cast.
Oh,
I'm going to treat myself.
See, that's the perfectionist in you, see, Tom. That is the perfectionist.
I thought about it.
Yeah, and if you think about it, do it.
But then I changed my mind.
Yeah, oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't happy with how it went in. But I must say, I mean, the rod, it's got oodles of power in reserve. Actually,
I think the reel match up nice as well. I think those are Preston reels are something I've used quite a bit of actually. And
we'll talk about these in a second because I want to pick your brains. I know you're a big fan of these, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right, let's get this just right. And I'll tell you something else, mate. Them feeders fly through the air absolutely like little bullets, don't they?
It's almost like they've been designed for that.
It is, isn't it?
Pink wafter always your first choice, Tom?
I do like a pink wafter, yeah. I like the pink Fuca neons for smaller fish as well. I like maggots for skimmers. But I don't do loads of this kind of fishing really, to be fair. But, they're my three go-tos, I'd say. Pink wafter, bit of pink Fuca or maggots. I like a 6mm banded pellet as well, Dave. A brilliant upbait when it's like a mixture, isn't it, of carp and F1s.
Yeah, I like a 6mm pellet, nice and simple, see. I think you can get, oh that was nice, Tom.
It was better, wasn't it?
You absolutely nailed that then.
Better.
It was a wise decision to pull out and start again, Tom.
I've said that a few times in my life, Dave, to be fair.
Well, yeah, it's when you don't make that decision, that's when you're in trouble.
Right.
So it's, yeah, I like, I think sometimes you can get carried away with different colour baits and you can, I don't know, you can almost confuse yourself. Sometimes just going for something very, if you just accept that the fish are coming in over that method feeder and hoovering up what's there, and in amongst that is a 6mm pellet, then it's game on, isn't it?
Absolutely. Right, Dave, tell me all about Preston reels.
Well, I have used Preston reels, you know, and they've brought out various models over the last sort of, I suppose, 7 or 8 years maybe now. And I've used them. As you know, I do a lot of heavy feeder fishing on the river, and that involves sometimes, you know, winding back in 5 or 6 ounces of lead against a heavy flow with a load of debris and God knows what wattled up around your feeder. So they take quite a bit of stick, and I suppose the same qualities, you know, are needed for long range feeder fishing, because you've got to wind in, you know, hopefully with a bream on the end or a carp on the end, but also winding in a lot without anything on, but you've got to wind from maybe 90 yards away. So those, I find that the mechanisms and the gearings have got to be of a certain quality, and I've found that with the Preston reels that they seem to have that, even though they're not really in the top end price range. You know, they're not up against your Daiwas and stuff like that. They're cheap, but you know, the price you pay for these reels, I look at it and I think if I get sort of 3 years out of them, then I'm happy.
It's an interesting chat, mate, and I'm glad you made the point, because I, as you know, I'm a big fan of Daiwa rods and poles. I use Daiwa reels. I'm not blown away by them, Dave. Like, for the amount of money they cost, they do break a lot, break down. Like, I had some TDMs for a couple of years and they're all right. They're not bad enough to complain, but they certainly don't impress me with the build quality. And I've spoke to a few anglers who are similar. It might be that Preston's nicking a bit of the market, because I've only heard good things about the Centris or the other reels that they do, aren't they? Like the smaller ones.
They do the Centris, they do the Extremities, which is, I think is a slightly cheaper version of that.
Yeah.
Which I use. Actually, I've used Extremities for 2 seasons now.
Yeah.
Absolutely no problem at all. And what I like as well is you tend to find with a cheaper reel that sometimes the drags can be a bit tinny. You know, I do use the drag more these days. And I find, you know, they sound a bit sort of, you know, gravelly and just a bit really cheap almost, I think. But they sound nice as well. I'll have to play with that one later and show you. But it's, you know, so you can tell there's some quality there in the mechanisms. And I don't know. I just haven't got. I'm almost in that stage now where I'm not bothered about. The only thing I buy very expensive reels for is like salmon fishing and things like that, where I know I need the best possible drag.
Yeah.
this sort of fishing and the river fishing, I don't necessarily need that. I need something that's got the winding power.
You need the winding power, and I think the big one is the line lay, and on that it's lovely, isn't it? You can see.
They've changed, haven't they? They've changed the shape of spools now, so they're sort of, you know, almost like, whereas it all used to be about filling your spool to the very lip and letting it come up. But now the spools are shaped to encourage that line off the spool, and it's all about casting. You know, it's obviously there's thought gone into it. But,
Yeah.
No, I like them.
No, I think that's.
Do we know a price on those reels?
I think they're about 140
Right.
from memory.
Yeah. So
And I know these have been developed by Lee Kerry, and well, he's a stickler, so I would imagine he's got them just right before we let him bring them out. To be
he's a
fair.
busy man, Lee, isn't he? He's designing rods, reels to get.
Is it making him earn his money?
Oh yeah, that's it.
He didn't do hotels though, does he? That's what you've got
No,
to think.
that's
So he's a busy man,
Yeah.
full-time angler,
Well, yeah.
a bit like you.
I'm not full-time angler, Tom.
Well, might as well
I'm
be.
just a free spirit.
Free Spirit, they make some nice rods as well. Anyway,
So yeah, so we're going to catch a few now, do you think?
I think this is the hour. This is the time.
It's just that sun's
You've
got
had
up
one,
nicely,
you've
hasn't
primed it for me. Any second now, a large carp.
it? A large carp, not even just a carp, a large one.
A few indications on the tip. No, it's a lovely setup, isn't it?
Yeah. So I can't see what else you'd need to do, you know, for this sort of fishing, for long range fishing, whether it be carp or bream. I mean, so just to throw a little point in there, what about if you were fishing with braid? Does that change anything, do you think?
Just
Does the rod need to be any different?
Yeah, well, I think it's where that softness is even more important, isn't it? Absorbing the, 'cause obviously braid's a lot more direct. So to me, using braid, that soft sort of mid-action we talked about, tippy mid-action, is what you need even more, because when you've got skimmers, especially if you're having to scale down to smaller hooks and stuff.
Down to a 12 or something.
Yeah, in your yeah. You need the softness to stop you ripping the hook out. So no, all in all, very, very impressed. Looking forward to catching a fish on it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to catching a fish as well. When you're ready, mate. Well, Tom, it's that part of the show that has caused governments to topple and caused arguments worldwide. And so, would you like to ask me the question, Tom?
I would, but first I've just got to tell you, I've just snuck in the old sneaky sleeper rod down the right hand edge. So, just so you're aware, if I have to dart off, it's because a large carp, oh that was the wind, a large carp has intercepted. Anyway.
Firstly, I'd just like to say you snuck nothing in, Tom. It was perfectly obvious what you were doing, but you're going to have to be in charge of that because I've got
I'm
my
in
back
charge,
to it.
I've got my eye on everything, the whole job. So,
Right, so the king's ready, I'm ready. Ask me the question.
nice of you to talk about me like that. What's in the bag, Dave?
Right, so I'm going to hand you some products now.
Okay, go.
Now, don't worry about too much about what the products
Tip
are.
and butt protector.
You
Essential for a night out in Sheffield.
very much so. Bait dropper, maybe also essential for a night out in Sheffield. So we've got a variety of products here,
That's on
Tom.
pellet pole rig. Oh, Dave, there's a bite on the left-hand rod.
Oh, here we go. We just step in there then, shall we? Oh, here we go.
So, I've got 4 products in my hand.
Yeah. Let me just...
And,
do you want to remove your sleeper rod so I can play this fish properly?
of course, I will, in fact, I'm going to pull the sleeper rod in actually so that you can land the fish in
it's a
in
bit of
peace.
a-
And I'm going to put the plastic products back on the side tray. We can continue discussions once this is out of your way. Right. The sleeper rod is in.
Feels like a half decent fish, Tom. I don't know.
So, those products that we've got there, mate, what's your point? I can't
Right,
quite
so-
suss.
What have they all got in common, Tom? What have all those products got in common?
They are all in plastic packaging.
Which is the point entirely. So,
Right.
I'm not about to get all Greta Thunberg on you and Eco Warrior.
Well, I should hope not, because let's not forget, Dave, that it's your generation who have robbed my generation of our future.
You stole my childhood.
How dare you put your profits before eternal economic growth?
You stole a few childhoods, haven't you, Tom?
Stop it. What a thing to say.
Anyway, I'm not getting all Greta on you,
Right.
but if you look at angling as an industry, or as a sport, as a pastime, whatever, and look at what's involved, all the little technical bits we've got, little method feeders, hooks, all these, we've got more packaging involved in this sport than any other I can possibly think of. And
It was a pole rig attached to this fish.
I don't know, there's a pole rig just popped up. Anyway, by the by. And I figure that we're using probably more package than many other. F1, Tom, little F1. And we're using, I've pulled out of it, Tom.
No.
I've pulled out of it, Tom. That's
You've got
talking.
a free pole rig there on the
How
old
weird
unit.
is that? We've pulled out of the fish, but we've come back with a pole rig.
Hey, every cloud has a silver lining.
What's that? That's an Ian's 0.5. Look at that.
Ian's. It's Ian's float, pal.
Do you reckon Ian will want it back?
He's been snapped at the Dacron connector by the looks of it.
He'll not be happy about that, Tom.
You wouldn't be, would you? You
No,
wouldn't be.
I'm keeping that.
You wouldn't be.
Anyway, so yeah, so the point is, we're using a lot of plastic packaging, Tom. So the point is, if you go into your local supermarket, most of the meats and all those products are all in plastic packaging. You know, so the big, the giant, commerce companies and what have you are still using a lot of plastic. But should we, because we're like, angling's close to nature, should be close to conservation, should we be looking at it a bit more strongly and maybe leading the way in change of packaging, or is that just unrealistic?
It's a very interesting question, mate. Right,
I was due one.
You were actually, yeah. You've been saving up for that.
Yeah.
55 years that's took you, hasn't it? Anyway, yeah, two things. First one, line needs protecting. So good packaging for products like line, ready tied hooks, etc., that keeps it out of UV light is essential. Right. So I know it doesn't necessarily have to be plastic, it could be cardboard, etc., but I do think there's a place for packaging on a lot of fishing products, because you've got to keep the products as supplied in good condition, and they need to be kept out of sunlight. So I can see that.
Do you not think at some point though that there's going to be an enforced change in this? That the way the world is now, and the likes of Greta are going to force this upon us, and all it could come actually quite suddenly, and then suddenly everyone's got to change their packaging, and it's going to cost them the money in the long run anyway. Would it not be better to start slowly introducing things into? Because for example, I mean, we do have products, some power lights.
I've had that a few years, haven't you? Look at this.
So 24, Tom, I'm not an animal. But that's cardboard package, It's on a plastic spool, admittedly, but that's maybe a plastic spool that you could recycle or whatever. But
Well, that's the other thing, of course, yeah.
I just wonder whether it's something we should be more aware of. I'm not pointing the finger at the tackle industry, because I'll put myself right at the front of this, Tom. I go into the tackle shop, I never take my bait boxes. 4 pints of maggots in a bag, please. So I'm as culpable as anyone. I just wonder, should we be, should we be looking at it?
I think the more we can all do, the better, mate. That's definitely a fair point. Recycling is obviously an obvious and easy one, isn't it? All the plastic that we get, cardboard, etc., it does need recycling. I think the other side that I'm always conscious of with fishing, and it just makes me cringe a bit sometimes, you've got to be careful how loudly we bang a self-righteous drum, especially in things like environmental circles and fish welfare and all that, because I always think, hold on a minute, we can justify it all we want, we can dress it up all we want, but basically we are sticking a hook in a fish's mouth for fun. End of chat. It's the way I always think about it is that that's our right to do it. Mankind's always done it. It's a very deep-rooted part of our humanity, isn't it, the need to hunt and fish. But the minute we start getting too airy-fairy and making out that we are guardians of fish and nature and all this, I think we're on dodgy ground myself.
So you think we should just keep our mouths shut and crack on?
Yes, and recycle and do our best.
Recycle, yes, and don't leave litter.
And don't leave litter.
But if you do happen to find one of Ian's floats, crack on.
Crack on, or crack off, as in this case.
All right, should we get back to some proper fishing?
I think we should. That was a very nice bite.
That seems to be taking you towards the island, Tom. Is it trying to get around the back of the island?
I think my plan of casting across the lake nearly came unstuck, but I actually think I managed to
Have you
to
bullied
turn
it away?
it.
You
It's
actually, in
coming
all
back.
fairness, I was very tentative when I was playing a fish on that rod. You're actually being quite bullish with it. So this is quite interesting. A contrast of styles, Tom.
No, it was only to get away from the island. I'm now going to be very tentative, Dave.
What we're saying is it an F1, do you think?
I think it probably is an F1, but could be a large carp.
Yeah.
You don't think so, do you?
I don't feel it. I'm not feeling it. However, I'm feeling the rod. I'm liking the rod.
I'm liking the power of the reel as well. It's tell you what else I like about this: single handle.
Oh, well, this will be interesting because the other reel we're testing is a double handle. And I
Yeah.
find they both have their plus and minus points, but I find for winding, single handle.
I couldn't agree more. I do like a single handle reel.
I think it's more like, it's almost like a lever, isn't it? Probably, in all fairness, I wouldn't be surprised, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if double handles make the reels last longer, you know, the mechanisms.
Yes.
I imagine they put less pressure on, you know, it's better balance.
Bit of counterbalance. There's a word for it, isn't there? What do they call them things in mechanics? It's like a counterweight sort of job.
I don't know, Tom.
Somewhat like that, isn't there?
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to step out.
But I think probably, yeah, double handle probably is make the reels a bit longer lasting, but for winding power, I'm sorry, single handle all the way for me.
Yeah, it's I tell you what, it's a lovely little F1, isn't it? It might be a bit more line out than that, Dav.
I was like that when I first started.
Tell you what, dogged character, isn't it?
They bury down, don't they?
They do pull in here, don't they, mate? Come here. Very, very lively animal.
So it's similar size to the one that I caught, so we'll be interested. We'll have a little weigh test as well, shall we?
I think we should.
Should be somewhere similar, I think.
No, what a lovely rod. The softness out of it, I did give it a bit towards
I was
the
going to
end.
say you were pulling a lot harder than I pulled on that, and it didn't seem to affect it.
No, I
And
was,
those are the fish you'll pull out of, aren't they? They are.
yeah, I was
You
very
managed-
pleasantly
managed to
surprised.
collect some sort of debris there, Tom.
Yes.
I don't think we need the stick on there.
I can see you're a trained gilly. It does.
I'm not a gilly, I'm a guide.
You're a guide.
I'm a gilly guide coach. I'm anything you want me to be, Tom, as long as you're paying the money.
Right. A bit like Tina Turner from the song Private Dancer.
Yeah, dance all for money. I can't remember the lyrics.
Any old music will do and all that.
Oh, okay.
I'll do what you want me to do. Private dancer, dancer for money, and any old music will do. Yeah.
You've spent a lot of time.
All these men
listening.
come in these places and these men are all the same. Right.
You've spent a lot of time listening to Tina Turner, haven't you?
How
Come on.
big's that way then? What
So
you saying, Paul?
I'd say it's a little bit bigger than one. I'd say almost £2 that one.
Let's have a look on the old right way then.
I'm intrigued now. Oh yeah, look, it's just shit. What
No,
was it?
it's
I can see the two. It's two. That's
it's
two.
just under. So it's on the line. It's bang on the line. That it's
Yeah.
£2 in it all day long.
Right. Okay. Well, that's not far away. We're not
No,
going to get
I
that.
think that's £2.
Right. So
Well,
what
it's
we need,
£2 of anybody's money, isn't it? That
it is. What we need now is a good carp
to give it a real workout.
to see if it's a thing. But so are you saying as well with that? I say that's not adding any great weight to it. I don't know what's it made of. Is that like
Aluminium, I
It
think,
is
or-
aluminium. Yeah. It's counterbalance. I can see the spring in there. It's a good little tool, isn't
I
it?
think it's a great little system. I really do.
What it's got, and that's important, is it's got those two little handlebars there.
Yeah.
To stick your fingers under, so it's you know, you've got your.
I'll
your
tell you what
balancing.
I'd see a use for it for as well. Tell me if I'm wrong, but you're the guy who might use this more than me. On the river, guiding, barbel,
Yeah.
you know, people always forget to take scales or don't want to carry a separate set
Yeah.
of scales when you're roving about. Think it'd be useful for that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a wonderful little bit of kit. Like I say, it's not. If you're talking about if you want to know your personal best or whatever, then you'll use a very tight, you know, a digital scale or something. But that is telling you everything you need to know, and it's doing it quickly.
Absolutely.
But I think for weight building, I can see me incorporating one of them.
Right. I'm going to have another cast and I'm going to catch you an £8 carp.
Go on. Let's have a bit of a munter. Pink wafter again.
Yeah, I think so. You?
I quite fancy one of these. I want you to do one of these fancy neons.
If we do that, we've got to put a spike on. Put a little spike on, mate.
No, let's see.
Well, tell you what we
Let's
could
have
do.
another go on the pink.
Another pink, and then we'll put a neons on and try and catch a carp.
Do you think it makes a big difference in this game?
What,
Your hook
the-
bait?
Yeah, sometimes, mate. I do.
Winter
yeah.
time, maybe?
I always remember Jeff Moore's, bless him. He said something in an interview with Dave Harrell just before he died about method feeder fishing and how he caught a lot of fish when it first started with nothing on the hook.
Yeah.
Because he could suck the hook in easier.
Yeah.
And I always stuck with that. I always thought, oh, I don't know whether it does make a difference or not. But then I've definitely had days where they seem to prefer one bait or another, whether it's they suck it in easy or they see it or what.
Or is it just psychological, Tom?
Yeah, I don't know. Right, here we go.
Come on then, Scud.
Scud. I mean, your nickname. For a cast like that, it could be.
Nailed it. Ooh.
No, I didn't nail it, did I?
No, I don't think I was quite as...
I'm not happy.
Didn't burst the clip like the last one.
Not happy. I'm not happy.
He's not happy.
Let's have another chuck.
Scud. Always within 50 yards of his target.
Scud. Right, one more cast. Nice carp, and then we'll have a little play with MAP's tool. See what we think of that. Well, Dave, once again it's you who the job has fallen to give the MAP rod its maiden voyage.
I'm like the foot soldier, aren't I? You always send me in first, don't you?
Absolutely.
Right, so this is the dual XD series, and this is the same length as the rod we were using before, 13 foot 2 inches, which in new money is 4 meters. Yep.
Yep. Casting weight of 100 grams. Retail of around about 170 quid.
So a little bit cheaper, this one. Okay. All right. Well, let's give it a go anyway, shall we? You've clipped this up for me, have you? I
have, and you've got the dual feeder reel there as well, is it?
Yes, I've got the dual 550, 5,500.
Now, one thing to say about that, and it builds on our latest chat about reels. RRP on that reel, £55.
All right. Okay.
Very, very, very reasonably priced, mate.
Okay. First thing I noticed is obviously, as we were talking about before, is the double handle. So
some people like them, some people don't.
Well, that's it. Some reels come with both. They give you an option, don't they? Well, I don't know what. I wouldn't have thought at £55 you're going to get that, but
no.
Okay, let's have a go.
And it's a fine cast, powerful, intense. Oh, hit the water beautifully.
Do you know what? You wound me up there because you hadn't clipped this up. Oh, you had. Sorry. I looked, I couldn't see the clip. Look.
Dave, if you can't hit the clip
There's
that
the
I have
clip.
set, if you cannot reach the mantle and standard that I have set, let's not try and blame me for that.
That would have been over. That would have been overshot. That would. I'm not having that. I'm redoing your clip.
Have you seen anything like this, folks?
That was
Man's
about
a
2. I think
narcissist.
you did that on purpose. You thought I was going to overshoot the runway there, Sunshine.
Your reputation precedes you, pal.
Dave Roberts does not overshoot.
Yeah.
Right. So, let's see if we can't get a bite on this bad boy.
But again, that casted lovely.
Yeah, actually, that was quite. That was because it's again, you got a different rod in your hand, even though it's the same length. And I'm trying to see the different. I'm seeing on this one smaller eyes at the end, on the tip.
Yeah.
Is it the same weight? Have we got the 2-ounce tip in this?
We have.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. I think there's more. I think there's smaller eyes and there's more of them on the tip. I think.
Let's fact check that, just like the government do with COVID.
Yeah.
Let's just see.
That was my initial opinion. That the eyes are a little bit smaller, but there's more of them.
I feel like Chris Whitty.
You look like him too.
No bad thing, old Chris. Sure, that's a 2-ounce. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eyes on the tip. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 eyes on the tip. Yeah, there's one more eye on the old beauty.
And I do think they are slightly smaller eyes.
Mm.
Which gives the impression of a finer tip, but probably isn't the case. It's just.
Does it give more sensitivity?
Well, I don't know. I'll know when it whacks around.
Not that you need ultimate sensitivity when fishing with a bolt rig, as we are today.
But you still need to be able to sort of, wind into it, and if you've got some tow on the lake or whatever, you've got to be able to counteract that and see the
So again, there's 3 rods in this range.
This is what I like, Tom. I like that these companies now are bringing, they're not just bringing one feeder rod, there's a family. There's 3 in the Preston one, there's 3 in this range, you know, and they're saying that's for that job, you know, that's if you, so there's something for everyone basically, you know.
Yeah.
And can you see a point where you'd own all 3? Would there be a reason to own all 3? Is there a massive difference between apart from the obvious length thing, but between 13 foot 2, 13 foot 8, 13 foot 10 or whatever they are? I don't know.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm a weirdo though, Dave, as you know, a complete weirdo, because I'd be more inclined to have 3 13-footers all the same length, so that if I'm fishing somewhere I can have multiple rigs set up on the same tackle. That's how I'd do it personally. If I was, say, for example, on the Trent, you know, I'd have 3 13-footers, so I could have 3 feeder rods on the same line with maybe different length hook lengths, or
right, okay,
you know what I mean.
yeah.
So you can sort of. I'd rather, in many ways, match the hatch and have slight differences. I don't see the advantage. It'd be, for me, I'd go from a 13-foot rod to a 14-foot rod, or a 12-foot rod to a 13-foot rod. Yes. Yeah. 6 inches, 2 inches. What difference does 2 inches make among friends? You know what I mean? We've had this chat before, but
not with me, you haven't. This is another advantage. Going back to the reel, the double handle reel. So this bit now, when you cast out, your line's sunk, and you're just doing that tensioning up bit, and you're giving it an adjustment. With the double handle, you can just give it the slightest little tweak, and it doesn't roll back on itself. No. Where if a single handle is in the wrong position, the weight of it takes it back. So that's always the plus point with a double handle reel. You can fish with your anti-reverse off and or on, whichever way you want to look at it. Setting the tip is a very very precise affair.
Definitely. Let me ask you about the handle then, and let's just compare, because Preston made much of the long handle. Let's just put this next to. It is actually about what, 2 or 3 inches longer maybe? Oh, is it? Sorry, no, it's very similar, isn't it? Slightly longer. I'm saying
an inch at most, I'd say.
An inch longer. I do like the flatness of the butt on the Preston. What's your thoughts on that one? Yes or no?
I do like that. Yeah, I expect. Oh, is that a bite, Tom? Oh, that might be on. Oh, and we're in. Look at that.
Very good, you aren't you?
I'll tell you what.
You know, have you thought about applying for the veterans team?
I said
England veterans. I'm sure Joe Roberts would like to hear from you.
I'm immune to your insults, Tom.
I'm not. I'm trying to be nice.
All I'm saying is I've sat on the box once again, and they call me the postman. If
they did a veterans inline feeder championship, I think you would be up there, mate.
And if they do bring out a tight northern one, you'll be first choice as well. You'll be captain.
Captain. Again, lovely action.
You know, that is actually, because I think this is an F1 again. The only thing I don't, this is my thing, this winding, I'm not getting a lot of feeling through the handle, which might sound daft, but you know, when you're winding, you do need to sometimes feel, not just through the rod, you need to feel the tension that you're putting on the line when you're winding, and I feel that's sort of hidden away a little bit with a double handle. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because I fish with single handles so much that I'm not used to using a double handle.
Yeah.
But it's not, you know, I don't feel like I'm really sort of in direct contact doing it this way. But like I say, that might be, you know, bringing longevity to the life of the reel.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. I've sometimes felt the same on big reels anyway, you know, because it's all very well putting winding power on there, which a lot of big reels have, and obviously it's an advantage, but you do lose a bit of that sensitivity anyway, don't you? Yeah.
I'm desperately trying to see now, because this is a cheaper rod than the other one we were using. I'm trying to see where the extra 50 or 60 quid is, and same size fish as we were catching, same action.
It's a lovely action, that. Soft, there's no flat spot, is there?
No.
Really, a bit bigger that one, Dave, actually. Oh.
Tell you what, they dig in, don't they?
It looks like there's a bit more finesse in the tip there, you know.
That's what I say. I think whether it's the eyes are smaller, because it's the same weight tip, it's a 2-ounce tip, but it just seems to.
Beautifully done, sir.
Thank you, Tom.
If I may say so, sir.
I thought so. It was very smooth, wasn't it? Smooth cast, smooth plate. Don't rush them.
Well, let's have a little weigh.
Let's get the hook out. Well hooked, just in the corner of the mouth, Tom. That wasn't coming off. So I reckon that's smaller than the ones we've caught before, so I'm saying £1.5 pounds.
One thing I will ask you to do,
Go on.
I think it's important we tell people to do this, hold it by that.
Oh yeah, we said about those.
Because you don't want to pull the ferrule out your landing net.
£1.75, that's saying.
Yeah. And the true test for that will be a little while with a carp, won't it? But
Yeah.
I think it's about right, isn't it, again?
Unfortunately, I'm not good enough to catch carp, Tom. I'll have to leave that to you.
And unfortunately for you, it seems it's my go on the box, doesn't it?
Yeah, well.
So let's have a little look at this.
Oh, here we go. Like the wind's got up now. You're going to have a bit of a wind-assisted cast, aren't you?
I hope so.
You need it. Right, come on then, my little Yorkshire porn star.
I have actually been described as a powerhouse of a man before.
By yourself.
And you're now going to see that Northern Grit directed
Northern Grit.
into a beautiful cast to tickle the palate. You've clipped this up from a old beauty, haven't you? You have?
Yeah. Yep.
Here we go then, let's see what
You
we can do.
cannot fail. Oh, look at that, wind assisted.
Tell you
He's
what.
going to hit the clip.
Oh, beautiful that,
That
wasn't
was
it?
nice.
You like
Yeah,
that?
and you use the wind. I would say, I'd go as far as say you flighted that on the wind then, Tom. You're
Flight
bad.
of fancy.
You're not bad at this casting game actually. When you pull your finger out.
No, it's not something I do a lot of, but you know what? I like all fishing. I really enjoy it. Great way to spend a day in it occasionally. Slinging one
I
out.
find this method feeder fishing. It can be a bit dull at times, or a bit hard work sometimes when it's like when you're on a hard match. But when it goes good, it's awesome, isn't it?
Oh, it's lovely.
When you're chucking out, and as soon as you're chucking out, you're getting indications, and you know it's going to whack round at any point.
We all have our little favourite ways of fishing, but I always say the same. You know, all fishing's great when the float's going under, the tip's going round, and
Yeah.
it's lovely. Right, I want to talk a little bit about tip sizes, because it's interesting. All these rods have come with the same, or both these rods, should I say, have come with the same 3 sizes: 2 ounce, 3 ounce, and 4 ounce. We've opted for the 2 ounce in both. I can't personally ever see me needed lighter than a 2 ounce for a rod of this length. Can you?
Possibly. I can see it. I can see it in certain situations where you need to go, where you need a bit finer, where you're possibly bream fishing,
Is it like an
possibly
ounce
long
tip?
range roach fishing. I'm just trying to think of scenarios.
Because you get some natural resistance, don't you? Provided you've got a bit of water movement, you get some natural resistance from the line, don't you, at range anyway?
Yeah.
So you need a slightly bigger tip, I always think.
The trouble is, like I say, if you go too light, that's it. If you bring to any tow in it, you can get caught short with it, can't you? Your rod can be arcing round. And
I'll tell you what I've found as well, and this might just be my inexperience at the game, but I've tried to be clever a couple of times and I bought some 1/4 ounce or 1/2 ounce tips for my Daiwa tournaments, put them in, and what you end up doing actually when you go for a big cast is cracking off, because the tip's so light, it doesn't
work with
the action of the rod.
Sort of unbalances the rod a little bit.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's all got to be well oiled, doesn't it? I find as well with this casting at range, it's always a bit sort of stiff to start with. Everything's kind of like you get your mark, you clip up, you fish, and you start with it sort of all very like really not struggle to hit the clip, but you're not just in your. And then after about 5 or 6 casts, it just becomes easier, doesn't it? It's just that repetition, and you just like already like just casting that rod. I having cast the other rod a few times earlier, and then just picking that rod up, it's just effortless, really, isn't it?
When you think the whole setup here is, around 200 quid, we'll say, maybe just over. That's fantastic value for money, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
Going back as well to say it's what you were saying about having multiple rods. The the reel, you know, I suppose the rod is the main. Oh, yeah.
Arm's on, isn't it?
Tom, I tell you
around the old knob, so to speak.
It went round your knob?
Not my knob personally, but a knob.
Had a few bites now, mine, haven't we?
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
These F1s again.
I think they are, actually. Let's try it. You know what? Until I thought about it, I didn't even notice the issue with the handle. I say issue, the head, you know, it does feel different, a double handle. I don't find it unpleasant, actually.
You find it unpleasant?
No, I don't find it unpleasant. I don't, you know, now I'm used to it, now I'm actually using it.
Yeah, no,
it's a bit of a mental block sometimes, isn't
it's
it?
Very,
you know?
it is a very smooth reel, and I think that's probably helps the life of the reel. And it's certainly, I think, if I was going to define the two, I think double handle would be better for bream fishing.
Why do you say that?
Just because I feel like with bream fishing, you're always your tips, it's all about your tip sensitivity and just getting it in right position against the toe or whatever you're working with. You know, you're always looking, I don't know, I just feel like, but you know, the bites are a bit, you know, I know bream can wrap a tip round, but I don't know, I just always feel like you're always looking for more indications with bream fishing. If you were fishing like, you know, open end feeder as opposed to method feeder, because let's be fair, most carp fishing you'll do will be method or hybrid feeder, won't it?
Yeah.
But with bream fishing, you know, you're tightening into a, you know, maybe a rig with a loop, not a loop,
Paternoster.
a boom, paternoster boom or whatever, a feeder link, and everything's got to be just right. And that's when I think the lighter tips might also be important, but also that fine setting of the double handle, you know, just getting it at the right tension so it doesn't roll back on itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's lots of these feed. They're all very similar size, aren't they?
Lovely fish.
You said you were going to catch me a carp.
I'm going to do my utmost. Next chuck, promise. Honest.
All right. Okay.
Honest. But first, I wanted to have a little chat about these feeders that we're using today, because these were included. Robbie Griffiths snuck us a few in our little package.
Good like that old Robbie, isn't he?
Robbie's a fantastic. I tell you what, a pretty fish. Whoever said F1s can't be pretty? Look at that. Absolutely pristine. I do love an F1, you know.
Yeah, they're nice fish. I do like them.
This is going to really upset my natural venue friends, but it's true. F1s are probably my second favourite fish after roach.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a big statement.
It's a big
Tom.
statement, and it's true.
However, I would say certainly for me, they make winter commercial fishing. I don't do much of it these days, but they feed in the winter. You can actually feed them. You can put feed in. Maybe not a lot, but you can put some in and they'll come and they'll feed, whereas carp will do that thing where they sit in a ball and do nothing.
Yeah, and they're interesting. I love catching them. They're so hard to catch in winter. You know they're feeding.
Yeah.
They're brilliant. They're just like roach. I love them. So,
Okay, so we have, this is the ICS system. Can we remember what ICS stands for, Tom?
Interchangeable.
Interchangeable system. So we've got on there today, we've got the inline, is it a Banjo XR, that one?
Jura Banjo is the name of these, yeah.
Jura Banjo.
Let's have a little look at the design, because we've seen how well they fly. The big one is that these interchange with everything else in the ICS system. So you can
So it
quite
could be
literally,
a pellet feeder or...
yeah, let me show you what you do, if I can remember. Something along the lines of pulling off the tail rubber. Then you can slide the feeder, just give yourself a bit of slack.
Cut yourself some slack there.
Cut myself a bit of slack, you push that through, I believe. That's it, push the stem through. And then obviously you just pull your line through the groove and the feeder
so
comes
you could
off.
swap, so you could put like a banjo, a proper banjo or a pellet feeder, anything basically. So
Yeah.
Or you could change, importantly, if you get a big crosswind come up, you've got a 45 gram feeder on, you could then put your 60 grammer on to fire it through the wind. And
I saw some clever devils with a video with a tackle shop, Wicked Angling, where they were adapting Guru hybrid feeders to fit this system. But obviously now, thanks to this, you don't need to do that. It seems to work pretty easily. If I can make it work, can't be that hard.
So just to point on that, I notice on the front, so you've got the lead is, or the weight is at the front of the feeder there.
Yeah.
It's obviously been thought about. You've got a flatbed of weight on the bottom, but then
Yeah.
you've got this front loaded bit, which I assume is to make it sort of fly and then, you know, basically go in a straighter line really, and the trajectory will be sort of a steady up over as long as your cast is right, and then dropping in the right way, because as we know, even you and I know that the way this feeder drops in the water is imperative to its success, isn't it? You don't want it landing in a great big...
You want a nice little plop, don't you, Dave?
Great big splodge. That's what you don't want, isn't it?
A nice little plop.
He's got a few little, so he's obviously got side holes, side slats there, which are going to aid the breakdown of the bait. It's going to get some, and you've got holes in the bottom. So
here's one for you. Old Tommy Pickering, filming with him at Boddington's. These holes in the bottom on the Guru hybrids, he glues them up.
Really?
He believes that water pushes bait off the feeder.
Right,
I don't think it does, do you?
I can't see at the speed it hits it would.
But who are we to argue with Tommy?
I was going to say, you crack. If you want that argument, you crack on.
No, he's bigger than me, stronger than me. Right, let's see what we can do. Let's try and tickle that platform. They fly beautifully, actually, don't they?
That is going nice, that is. Oh, nice, Tom. Nice,
simply lovely.
So it's the ICS system, and you've got the moulds. These come in moulds as well. So I thought moulds was something we didn't do with hybrid feeders. So this is changing the mould slightly, Tom?
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
See what you did there. Yeah.
It's a shallow mould, isn't it? You can see it's designed just to give that little bit of humper bait.
They're easy to use as well.
I'm going to do one while you're fishing. I'm going to do one now.
Do us one up for Jack.
Jack will like this on the camera.
Jack will love it. He'll get a nice little cutaway of this. I'm going to catch you an £8 carp, pal.
So we fill our little mould up. Yeah, so it's like traditional method moulds. It's a lot shallower than that. You can see that. So you'd have your hook bait tucked in there. Push it into there, and it's got these rather... That's straight on there.
Straight on, you're beauty.
Tom, you're flying.
Only small fish though, this.
So then you flip it over, and it's got these two nice little veins on the side, which you just push your fingers against and plop it off. Oh, I see. Look at that, Tom. Isn't that nice and neat?
That is absolutely perfect.
We haven't been using that so far, we've been doing it by hand, but that actually gives you a nice... So it's never...
Well, I bet it'll cast better as well, Dave.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah.
In fact, we'll try it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I like that.
We'll put it on. What weight's that one? It's the same weight?
That's a 60 gram, but it's the same size. You can use that mould on that one.
Well, I'll let you do it. You just did it beautifully.
Well,
I lost the last fish, so we might as well. A rest is as good as a change. Show us again.
Right, so.
Put some more markers, pal.
That's all right, it's all right. Let's go too willy-nilly with the marker. So what I would do, and I don't know whether this is right, but I'd put my wafter in first, and I'd push it down so it ends up somewhere near the top of the bait, and I'd perhaps just sprinkle a few more of them bad boys on there. Flip it over, push it down, and with these, look, you can really give it a good... See how hard I screws that? But this is the bit I like, is it's got these two things. It makes it easy, doesn't it? So you just give it a push. Sorry, if you get it the right way, give it a push.
Oh,
look at that.
Is, look.
And that's, I mean, that's...
Well, I tell you what, I like that. I like how smooth it is and aerodynamic it is.
Yeah. You've got a bit of an edge. You can, if you want to be really pernickety, you can just... It's like taking the crust off a cake.
Macresta used to do a toothbrush for doing that, for cleaning the feeder.
That's just silly.
No, you spoilt it. What are you doing?
I just wanted to see how tight it was on there. And for me, I don't know, I feel like I do just want to give it that extra.
Another little squeeze.
But then that's perhaps down to the consistency of your bait. If you were just using micros or just using ground bait, it would probably be more consistent.
I must admit, I'm exactly the same, joking aside. I always think that you give it in a match.
Because there's a lot going on between 70 yards from here to there, hitting the water at 300 miles an hour, or whatever speed you throw.
Especially with my casting, it has to be said.
It's like a bullet, isn't it?
Right, here we go. We'll see, won't we?
Right, are you going to catch me this carp now?
Right, this is the £8 carp. Are you ready?
I am. Nice, nice. Oh, you smashed the clip there. That was lovely.
Did you enjoy that, meal?
You've got to be careful here, because I did this. I think if you were hitting the clip too hard and had your rod too far forward, we'd be hitting the bank, wouldn't we?
We would.
But again, that goes back to like when this, as you go through the session, you get so more in tune with how far you cast and your clip that it just becomes effortless by the end.
And what I'm going to do now, he doesn't know this yet. I'm actually going to send Jack round with his hard hat on, to sit on the platform and see if he can get the feeder going in and some nice, sexy shots of action.
I don't think your public liability insurance covers you for that sort of thing, Tom.
Well, I'm a big believer in, I think it's the SAS motto, isn't it? Who dares wins, is that them or is that the Marines?
I don't know, but I reckon if we start doing that, the ICS might stand for intensive care situation.
Come on, Jack, be brave. Well, Dave, we have a saying up north, if you're going to have one, have a big one.
Well, it seems to be we found another decent one.
And this gave a savage bite.
It flew round, Tom. Flew round.
You were momentarily distracted, weren't you, mate?
I wasn't expecting that actually. I was getting a few rattles and I was expecting a little F1 just to pick it up and nod off, and it ran round. So, and it's given me a bit of a run around really. Whether it's just because I'm being a bit tentative because I want to get it out and see, but the rod is. You can see now it's like another section of the rod has come into play.
I was just going to say that. It's really interesting because if you'd have said to me when you played that F1, if you'd have said, Tom, describe the action of that rod, I'd have said tip to mid action. I'm watching you leaning into this character and...
character?
I'm saying we've got a through action on our hands now, mate, when needed.
Yeah, it's doing the job, isn't it?
I mean, this lake's absolutely full of big carp. I've caught a few from... Oh.
Hooper.
Oh, sir.
We need a bigger boat.
So
this is this is now we've caught small fish F1s with soft mouths that are prone for pulling out. Now we've got a proper carp. I think we're giving it the all-round test, aren't we?
I think so, mate. I think so. It's a good fish, like you say. It's a big fish, Dave, that, isn't it?
Ooh, look at that babby.
It's £10.
It's £10.
£10 if it's an ounce,
well,
that, my old beauty.
I'll tell you one thing, we're going to know for sure, aren't we?
I'm loving that. I'm loving the action on that rod.
It's nice now, isn't it, when you can get them under the rod tip, and if you want to bully them, you can a little bit. I'm not going to bully anything though, Tom. I'm just...
You know, we talked about price point earlier as well, and obviously this is an expensive piece of kit, as we said. That's what you get, isn't it? You know, the fact that even now, and under quite a lot of GRS, that lovely true through play in action.
Yeah, there's
Beautiful.
nothing. There's no hold-ups, there's no flat spot, nothing.
Nothing not to like, is there?
And like I say, you've got to look at it. You've got to look at it from the punter's point of view, haven't you, as to what they're getting for their money, and can they use this rod in multiple situations, i.e. rivers, big lakes, commercials.
That is a big humpbacked character, isn't it?
I'd like to get this one in now, Tom. Let's keep that rod a little bit low.
It's a lovely looking fish, Dave.
Isn't it?
Wouldn't mind a few of them in the last hour of a match, would you?
Yeah, I think you could line them up.
That's the rod I put the 012 up length on, pal.
Didn't really. Well, you scaled up.
Yeah.
Tell you what, considering we've had a spell of hot weather and you'd expect fish to be lethargic, even the F1, everything's been pulling today.
No, they don't like it up and mate, do they?
They don't. Whoa, come on, look at that. Look at the
Oh,
back
that's
on
a
that.
lovely fish, isn't it?
Oh, look at that. I feel like I'm one of them specimen hunters. Look, just keeping it up now.
Well, it's got the old hump back on it, hasn't
Yeah.
it? Keep its head up.
Come on, in you go.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
well
look at
done,
that.
mate. Well, that's a 12 to 15 pound carp, I'm saying. Well, I'll let you have a guess.
I'm going to say, let's have a look at it first and then I'll have a... Oh, yeah, that's going to be £15, Thomas.
You're saying 15 pound.
Look at that.
I'm saying 13 pound.
Right, well, let's get the hook out. Okay, so.
On the right way.
went far out, Tom. It's saying
dead on, or 12 and a half, isn't it?
Yeah.
12, just under 13. Hold on.
Just looking on. I'm just playing with the balance a little bit because I'm just seeing how smooth that balance is. But yeah, it holds there, doesn't it? It's £13.
£13 on the nose.
There we go then. So how big was that? That was
£13 and a half. 13 and a half.
So what we've got to do now is we've got £38 on our Rite-Tackle clicker.
Right count.
Right count. I saw Rite-Tackle on there. So
right.
So on our right count we've got £38. So £13 onto that, I make £51.
51.
And if I wanted to be really sure, I'd say 52, wouldn't I?
You would.
So, so if we go to 52, and if you're on a venue where you've got a £50 net limit, well, you've gone over. But say £60, you know you might be pushing it with one more fish, aren't you? It's a good reminder, isn't it?
Brilliant, because you can imagine multiple nets. Not that people like us need multiple nets very often, Dave, but when we do, you know, you can queue them up and know exactly what's in every net, can't you?
Yeah, I think it's that versus a clicker, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the trouble is with clicker, you've only got one clicker per net, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So you'd have to be going with a clicker, really. You'd have to be filling that net, going onto that net. Whereas this one, you could go, I'm going to put a £6 in that net. You could have like silvers in one and things like that.
I really like as well the fact that it attaches here. It's just easy to get to, and it's net specific. You know, each one's attached to the net that it applies to.
Yeah. So that just goes underneath the thread before where you put your attachment onto to the threaded bit of your keep net. That just goes between up the thread and tightens in when you tighten it.
On exactly that.
And it's in your face, isn't it? It's there. It's telling you what you've got. So.
Well, I'm now going to catch you a large carp on the MAP.
Well, I've caught £52. I mean, I can't do any more, can I?
Hey, for a man of your age, incredible.
Age again. All age are you, innit, eh? I belie my age.
You lie about your age?
I belie it. Well, Tom, is this the £8 that you promised me?
Dave, it might be. I said might be because it's just giving me a right run towards that bed of lilies to the right, and I've really had to hold on to it. As you can see, I'm pulling really hard because it really is trying to go through that.
In all fairness, I saw that just as it went towards the lily pads, and you've sort of anchored in, and that rod, the action on that rod is it's got beef, isn't it?
Oh, it's got beef, and I'm a man who likes to pull when I need to, Dave, as you know. And,
You're a bit good at pulling our bird.
There's nothing wrong with it, is there? It's slacking off a little bit.
I'm trying to look at the action of the rod compared to the Preston one, and they're very similar. They're now when they need it, when you need it, they've got that middle action. But it's not well done.
I think I said £8, didn't I? I'm saying I've got an £8.
I reckon you're close. I think you might be just under, if I'm honest. But
let's have a goosey gander. You think I'm under? How dare you?
Oh, maybe not.
Let's have a look. I think that's spot on £8. That.
Yeah, well, we'll soon see. Get in unhooked and we'll get it on the scale.
Oh dear. Right, let's have a look. Might be £9, my old pal.
You're getting excited now, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, it is a lively one. Don't like it up on these Heronbrook carp, pal. Right, let's have a look.
Come on. Moment of truth.
Moment of truth, the right way says. Oh, you're kidding me, man. £7.8.
Yeah, £7.5. I'm not usually far out. It wasn't £8 like you promised. But however, let's have a hold up for the camera. Let's have a look at it. It's a nice fish to end the day on, Tom.
It's a great fish to end the day on, mate. It's and I tell you, I've really enjoyed today. So we'll hold him up and then we'll get him in the net.
It's been something different today, and it's not something you normally do on this sort of venue, you know, casting across the lake and whatever, but it's worked, hasn't it? It's done. Juggling, Tom.
Juggling me, Ollie, like I did that. Get him in the old onion sack, get him in the old sprout sack.
No, it's worked. It's worked.
Taken us actually to...
oh yeah, give it, got it 8, 60, what are we on there?
£60.
You got to put 8 on there now, you just put, it was on 60 before. Put your, there we go.
68.
£68. Yeah, and as we've proved right away in the fish, we wouldn't be far on that. So if you're in a match now and you've got a £70 net limit,
You'd be happy, wouldn't you?
You're all right. To be honest, have you ever gone over on it now? I've spectacularly got it wrong before now.
I remember at Larford you once.
Yeah, I went over in
didn't
4
you?
nets.
Yeah.
I went over in 4 nets. So I think there's real value for that. If you're fishing venues, especially some of these net limits now, you know, it's a bugbear of mine. You know, £50 net limits. I'm like, well, you know, it's a bit of a pain. But if you're fishing those sort of venues where you need 4 or 5 keep nets,
Yeah.
I can see that. This as well doesn't. I'm impressed with how this doesn't affect. You know, it's not adding weight to your net, and it doesn't affect the rigidity of it.
I can see a lot of markets for that. I can see the match fishing market, but also I can really see the specimen fishing, or more the roving casual pleasure.
Yeah,
you know?
And also, there's nothing to say you can't. If you were roving for barbel, say, there's nothing to say you couldn't carry that. If you thought it was maybe a double or a personal best, give it a quick weigh, and if it's close, then get your reel scales out and get your but I like it. I'm always a bit scared that things are going to be a bit sort of gimmicky, but that's not. That's gadgetry, not gimmickry. So I like that. Rods and reels.
Let's sum up then.
Okay.
Beauty. Come on.
All
Preston rod, premium bit of kit, big price tag. Is it worth it?
Yeah, I like. You know, I can see the rod has got the value. I'd like to try all 3, but I'm pretty sure you'll get similar. All the way, but for 13-foot rod, both we've done today, 13-foot rods, they were very usable.
I think we've tried 2 cracking pieces of kit. They are slightly different, ever so slightly.
They are different. The MAP one is
definitely
definitely
lighter.
So yeah, and it's definitely got finer tips. All right, we don't normally pick one.
Oh,
You've got to pick a rod and a reel out of the 2 we've done.
if I had to pick a rod and a reel, I'd pick the MAP rod. It would be controversial. I'd be crossbreeding, hybridising and mongralising everything. But I'd have the MAP rod with the Preston reel, simply because I prefer the single handle on the Preston reel.
So my choice would be the Preston rod. Perhaps because I used it more, but I just felt like with those big casts, the bigger eyes, you know, for me that's more of a finer line, maybe a shorter line rod or something like that. Just those finer tips, just didn't feel the big chuck to me. I like those big eyes. So the Preston rod got it for me, but I wasn't a fan of the double handle MAP reel. In all fairness, there's a big price difference between the reels.
I'm going to say, you've got to look at that reel. Spectacular tangle on the rod now I've managed to achieve, but 54 quid.
Yeah, I mean that's
in a class of its own, I think, in that sort of price bracket.
Yeah, absolutely no problem with it at all. I just felt when I was winding back from long distance, wasn't quite giving me the strength and the power that I look for in a reel that's, you know, winching big feeders back. But, you know, like I say, 54 quid. And I should point out that, you know, you get things for your money, and the Preston reel comes with an extra spool. That one just comes with a single spool, but again, for 54 quid.
But the line lay's good. We've not had any tangles. The drag systems work well. We've landed some big fish today. We've done some big casts today and wound in a lot. Pretty good.
Yeah. So we're kind of a little bit divided on that, but ultimately, good package. And I love this rod. I love this family of rods. I love this. We've got, you know, rather than doing just 1 length, do 3 lengths, and then people have either got the choice of the one they want, or they can buy all 3, and you know, and have something. I'm sure how popular feeder fishing is in this country now, those are going to sell. The family is going to sell.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, I suppose if I was going to say, I'm struggling to see a massive difference. I can't see where the price difference comes from in the 2 rods, if I'm honest.
Right. Okay.
Different rods, but I can't see a finer rod. You know, I can't see where.
No. So you think the MAP one's really spectacular value for money in that sense?
Yeah, it's one or the other, isn't it? One's either overpriced or one's underpriced, but I can't work out which. But they were both very good.
Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure again.
I've loved it.
I think we should go back on the naturals next month. How do you feel a bit about long pole fishing, the old beauty?
Oh yeah, a bit of that. Yeah.
So
So we're going north or south? Where are we? We're not neither north or south here, are we? Staffordshire.
I think Staffordshire's Midlands, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Midlands. Well, I'm happy wherever I go.
I went to the shop this morning and I told you they haven't got any oat cakes. What a disappointment. But came all this way.
No, I suppose if you went north, you'd want barm cakes, would you?
Barm cakes, Lancashire, yeah.
Barm cakes.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's not worry about that. But
thank you very much for watching, folks. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.